Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. And that isn't talking about the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar. It's talking about that virgin daughter of Babylon in Revelation chapter 17, Mystery Babylon. Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And the North Country is speaking of Russia, which is also known as Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38. And the reason Russia is known as the North Country in this verse is because during World War III, which is also a part of biblical prophecy, real quick, this is Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us, which, for all intents and purposes, you can say, we're in it right now. The beginning stages, we haven't reached the culmination of it yet. But when we do reach the culmination of that third woe, the North Country, Russia, is going to shoot nuclear missiles onto the United States of America. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself from the north, and across that Arctic Ocean region, as well as from its military capabilities in the Arctic Ocean region to reach its targets in the United States of America would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the U.S. And I've got a little bit of a video that Canadian Prepper just put up, which he states that very fact. A biblical prophecy is becoming so prevalent out here because we're living in the last days that, knowingly or unknowingly, whenever people go into current events or geopolitics, they're quoting scriptures, they're prophesying in a sense. But again, for lo, I will raise the cause to come up against Babylon, an assembly of great nations from the north country. And that assembly of great nations are not just Russia's allies like China, Iran, or North Korea, but also America or Babylon's own allies, which at some point during that third woe are going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia. And they're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the U.S., turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland. Afterwards, just read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the 10 horns representing the EU or European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of the EU back when it was known as the European Economic Community, and the beast being NATO. So what? America's European allies like Germany, Britain, France, etc., as well as Turkey, which is a part of NATO and which is going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 38, which we're going to get a little later. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore that rides upon the beast, the United States, Babylon the Great, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, nuclear fire from those missiles. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for the nuclear missiles, because what do those missiles look like when they fly through the sky? Arrows. And also, those Israelis have, I believe, It's either it's something to do, let's just say a nuclear weapons contingency, which is called Arrow 1, Arrow 2, et cetera, et cetera. And also in the United States, when in the event that the government were to lose track of a nuclear weapon, what do they call it? Broken arrow. Everything perfectly lines up. And also, what you got to think about is when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear weapon was, so they had to describe it with what they had during their times: bows and arrows, spears, javelins, you name it. But again, World War III is biblical prophecy, and Russia and the United States of America going to war is also prophecy, and America being destroyed by nuclear missiles is prophecy. And nothing will happen to avert these biblical prophecies from coming to their fulfillment. But like I just said, since we're living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days, these biblical prophecies are speaking so much that the average everyday person, again, whether knowingly or unknowingly, is quoting scripture, prophesying. But the title of this video from Canadian Prepper's YouTube channel is Alert, Iron Dome Destroyed, 15 USA bases / nukes on Russia's border, massive cyber attack, Iran bombed. I'm going to start the video at the 27-minute and 37-second mark and let it play for a minute or two. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And as we'll see Canadian Prepper say, with the ice melting up in that Arctic Ocean region, Russia is taking advantage of it because there's a lot of resources trapped up there. And it's ultimately through the will of the Most High to what? Get those nations up in that Arctic Ocean region, because it's going to play a major part in prophecy. Not just is Russia moving things up there economically, but militarily as well, which I've done plenty of videos in the past showing that Russia has been building up their military capabilities, nuclear included, up there.
We also have to talk about Russia's 5D chess move with their North Sea Passage. Nobody is talking about this, and they're keeping it on the low. They're building 14, many of which they already have, nuclear-powered icebreakers, because Putin knows, he's a smart guy, he knows that the Arctic sea ice most definitely is melting. It's down 90% in terms of its density in the last 50 years. Not the extent, but the density. I always get passionate about this because anyways, you guys know what's up. So he's now creating this passageway that's going to allow him to transport crude oil from Russia, from the northern parts of Russia, in the Arctic, anywhere basically in the east, and it's going to be a much shorter trip. You're not going to have to worry about all these geopolitical bottlenecks, all this Houthi business, and all this Panama Canal drought business, and all this blah, blah, blah. Now they can just go around, and this is a 5D chess move I've ever seen one, and it also positions them well for a nuclear war with us, because, the Arctic, that's where the missiles come from. They don't go over, east-west. They go over, okay? They're going to come over.
That North country coming against Babylon, shooting at her with those arrows.
Canada, except with the exception of these longer range Sarmat 2 missiles that have a much longer range, and they can circumnavigate the planet in the other direction, allowing them to bypass whatever sort of piddly anti-ballistic missile system that we have, which probably won't work. Anyways, let's get real.
That's it with that clip. But right out of the cat's mouth, those missiles coming over the north, not from east to west. Let's get back into these precepts. These are the times we're living in. Hence why you're hearing more and more about World War III in the news and nuclear weapons being used. And Russia, the U.S., Iran, Israel being the main talking points in the news. This is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. that ancient warfare, swords and sandals, men blowing trumpets, yelling at each other, cavalry charging, spears and swords clanging, shields being shattered, arrows being shot, and hey, even to an extent, some of these modern wars, like what those bayonet charges during World War I, etc., etc. But this, this third woe shall be with burning and fuel of fire, that nuclear fire. Let me see where I want to go to next. I go to Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, or Russia, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And just because Russia's going to be the main nation to lead these other nations in taking down the United States of America, the Most High is still against you, Russian Edomites, and you're going down afterwards by Yahweh and the 144,000. Verse 4, And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. The Most High putting those Russian Edomites back in that old confrontational Soviet Union spirit. Hence, why they have military dealings all across the planet. Them helping Bashar al-Assad in the Syrian civil war, and their current military conflict in Ukraine, and them, building up their military capabilities in the Arctic Ocean region, other places across the planet. Them also showing their teeth on the economic front as well, with the BRICS coming up with ways to subvert the dominance of the US dollar. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, their military might, soldiers, tanks, helicopters, fighter jets, artillery pieces, mainly being gathered down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat in that Middle Eastern region for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon in Joel chapter 3, the main part of World War III. Verse 5, Persia, which we know is the ancient name for Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Now it's going into, some of Gog's allies. And we can look up, all you got to do is do a Google search to see that Russia has some, form of alliance with these different nations, whether militarily or economically or both. Verse 6, Gomer, which is speaking of Turkey, part of that assembly of great nations that's going to come against that whore Babylon. Hey, the beast, NATO, that's going to hate the whore, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah and the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. These nations allying themselves with Russia, and Russia being a guard unto them, and them coming against the West, mainly the U.S., and it culminating in those 200 million nuclear missiles hitting this whore. But now, I'm going to jump down to verse 10. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, It shall come to pass that at that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought to go to war against the U.S., ultimately shoot those nukes onto this place, and also best believe that there are Russian troops in America right now, waiting to get the go-ahead, to start doing some Red Dawn action. Verse 11, And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, and I will go to them that are at rest and dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Speaking of the United States of America, and you lightheaded Americans here that think that things like this will never happen, We're untouchable. We're the United States of America. We're the colors that never run. Well, biblical prophecy says otherwise. And this place, has no walls, has no gates, has nothing to it to like that, to protect it. What has old Donald Trump been talking about? Building a wall at the southern border. But this brings me into my next clip on GMS Get This Works 2's YouTube channel titled 2024 Russian Calendar, Will the Bear Strike? And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And the clip that this brother posted on his YouTube channel shows, the so-called Russian calendar for 2024, and it has some very telling images on it.
Hold on, man. We gonna get this work.
I'm gonna skip a little bit. We already went to those precepts.
So Russia released this calendar for 2024, and it's very eerie to me. It doesn't sit right with me. It almost seems like it's foreshadowing. We're going to go through a few of the pictures. By the way, TikTok is mad at me, so if you see this video on your For You page, let me know in the comments, please. First off, why is there a Russian military right in front of the Capitol? And why does it look like a huge end of America scenario is going on right behind me?
Hey, thou shalt think an evil thought and go up to the land of unwalled villages without bars or gates, where they are at rest and think they dwell it safely. The United States of America's border is compromised. Its military is compromised. Shit, there's a trend on TikTok of a bunch of Gen Zers saying that they don't want to join the military and die for nothing. And I believe there's also a trend on TikTok of a lot of people that are currently in the military talking it down and saying don't even bother joining. And hey, when push comes to shove, America's defenses are going to fail, in that day as well. They're going to get America's going to get their missiles off, but a lot of those missiles and, anti-missile defense systems are going to fail to allow this place to, be hit with those nuclear missiles from those other nations.
And don't forget, Putin has been meeting with Z all of 2023. In their last meeting, Z had said that there were changes coming not seen in over 100 years.
And one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter.
And with all the world events lately, all the movies coming out and everything geopolitically, this calendar is just very strange. It looks like the bear is in attack mode. And we know that people aren't too
Hey, I will put hooks into thy jaws and turn thee back and bring thee
fond
forth.
of the USA right now. Soldier with the cat showing displaced animals where combat would be happening. Here's the US Capitol again, and here is Putin all buffed up and ready to go to war, kind of like that bear was. And as you saw in that tweet, the calendar was released by the Russian feds, and that's actually what the lettering is on this car, the FSB. And this last one's pretty deep, so it's a...
And I'll just say this, they're saying that this was the Russian calendar, and, whether it is or whether it's not, the images are very telling and line up perfectly with biblical prophecy.
Standing beside Peter the Great, we're about to get into it, and also a medieval bow attire of Russia. I'll show you why it's significant. Peter literally modernized Russia, who was lagging behind the West at the time, and really just rebirthed a great society in Russia. But let's see the other one real quick. So here's that medieval warrior, and it said they fought against like the Tartarian Empire, or the ones that opposed them, and it's slaying a dragon. So we have Peter the Great showing great rebirth of Russia. We have the bear in attack mode, capital overthrown.
Slaying the dragon. The feet of a bear, like that beast. The feet of a bear on that beast in Revelation chapter 13. Russia, being the end of the nation, to take down, Babylon, America being the very end of Esau's power. And look at what the comment says. Him slaying the dragon, huh? Wow. Hey, everything is perfectly lining up. Biblical prophecy. But let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 50. Actually, I might just go to that Revelation, real quick. Let me see. Here it is. Revelation 13, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. And this is going to Esau Edom's rulerships throughout the ages. Esau Edom, of course, being the so-called white man. And that leopard is referring to Alexander the Great, who was the beginning of Esau Edom's true power in the earth. Because what did you have? The Grecian empires from there, and then what? The Romans afterwards. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, Russia, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And that's going into Great Britain, which the United States of America came out of. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And that dragon is going into the ancient pagan Roman Empire, which, when the Renaissance took place, what does Renaissance mean? The rebirth. The rebirth of that Roman, way of life and way of thinking, which has led to where we're at now, the United States of America and that EU and NATO system, which is, based off of the laws and principles of the Roman Empire. But as it said, it had a feet of the bear. At the very end, the bottom being Russia, that's going to take this whole thing down. And then, Yahushua, along with the 144,000, are going to take down Russia and these other remaining heathen nations after the dust settles, and put them in slavery so they can begin building up the kingdom of heaven, which is going to be the next rulership afterwards. Let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north, Russia, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from the ends of the earth, that assembly of great nations unto the north country. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array, like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. And I'm gonna jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Yahweh, and besides being known as the daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, which is very easy to see why this place is known as spiritual Sodom, and no explanation needs to go into it. But how was ancient Sodom and Gomorrah overthrown for its wickedness? With fire and brimstone from the sky. So this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be overthrown by this modern fire and brimstone, those 200 million nuclear missiles. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. It's going to turn this place into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only harsh desert creatures that can survive that environment are going to dwell here, as it's about to say. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial to what happens to a nation and government that rules in wickedness, and also what happens when you afflict the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Aquath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time.